land of Canaan that is better, he and all the people that were with him. Verse 7 and the last. And he built there an altar and called the place Bethel, because there God appeared unto him when he fled from the face of his brother. Praise God. Very interesting story. And you find there that the Bible said that people didn't pursue them because before they got to Bethel, they handed over their gods. Before they got to Bethel, they made a decision of returning, but on their way to returning, before they got there, they had to make a covenant, and that covenant was to drop strange gods. Brethren, I like you understand that Bethel means the house of God. The house of God. And if we're saying you should return back to Bethel, we're saying return back to the house of God. If we're saying return back to Bethel, we're saying return back to your assignment in the house of God. If we're saying return back to Bethel, we're saying return back to the way you used to serve God before. If we're saying return back to Bethel, we're saying return back to your sincerity when you were still very sincere with God, when you were not stealing God's money. I came to preach. If I say return back to Bethel, say return back to the times that you were not seeing what you do for God as one big deal. We're saying return back to Bethel. Say return back to when you were not looking for what they will pay you before you serve God. If we're saying return back to Bethel, we're saying return back to when your title was not a problem. We're saying return back to Bethel. Return back to when mantle was more important to you than title. If we're saying return back to Bethel, we say return back to where you respect and honor the man of God, not when familiarity has stepped in. If you say return back to Bethel, we say return back to your consecration and your dedication and to God. We say return to the house of God, not return to your business when your business become more important than service. Because a lot of people are not in church this evening because they feel like they need to make more money. If you say return back to Bethel, say return back serving God when you know that it is He that giveth the power to make wealth. If you say return back to Bethel, we say return back to the very thing that you made a vow for and say, God, if you keep me, come back to the very thing that you made a vow for and say, God, if you keep me alive, I will serve you for the rest of my life. And God finally kept you, and you've forgotten that there was a return back to Bethel. Return back to a place where you serve God, not minding who said what to you. If you say return back to Bethel, you don't mind if they crucified you, don't mind if anybody say anything, you just focus on God. Returning back to Bethel is returning back to a place of dying daily. Return back to the house of God. Return back to the place of assignment, not the place of murmuring, not the place of complaining, not the place of talking about, not the place of God, not the place of complaining, not the place of talking about, not the place of God, the place of the house. Oh, David said, I was glad. He said, I'd rather be a gatekeeper. I want to be in the house of God. I don't want to be in the palace. It's a time and a place where all I desire is one touch. Remember the day you sat there and said, Lord, I will serve you for the rest. So if you forget these days, he said, God said to them, say, build the stone, let it be for a memorial of encounter. Men that have memories of their encounter, they hardly fade some that easily, because there's always something drawing you. I don't know if you've ever watched the movie called War Room. That movie is one of my best movies, because it brought me to understanding that there's a place man always will meet with God. I pray for you this evening that you will come back to that place when your service to God was not bent on who is there or not. All of us have our encounters, and trust me, your encounter may not be my own encounter. I remember the day I gave my life to Christ. I was not in a crusade. I know you were in a crusade. They preached to you. Mine was at the backyard. I was coming from an evening market, and then I passed one backyard, and I heard a song was playing. Is it the Brothers of the Cross, of the Cross, Voice of the Cross? As I look at the cross, and I behold my Savior there, and then I heard a voice saying, it is finished. And now I passed. I came back again. The guy that was playing the music actually just on the radio. I'm sure he didn't have an encounter. I'm sure he was just playing one of the cassettes in his house, one of the tape that was in his house. He was just playing a normal play, but it was a winning soul somewhere at his backyard. At his backyard. God didn't win me in the front yard. Not in the front yard. My own was backyard. That's why my encounter cannot be yours. The way it happened to me. So you may not, you talk about your own, it's fine. But let me talk about my own. Mine was when I was coming from evening market. That's why I like market. At the backyard, just at the, I heard it. I went again. I came back. Go home and sin no more. I don't know if you know that song. There I knelt down and started crying. Other people were passing from the market. They saw a young boy kneeling at somebody's window and was crying. And so they were wondering what's happening to me. That was the day. That was my Bethel. That was the day I said, Lord, I will serve you. Lord, I've served. How it became life to me, I can tell. I can tell that same road to Damascus he has been passing. But the day Jesus decided to meet him, a bright light shone. I don't know what the encounter is for you, but I came to remind you, if you lose sight of that encounter, the forces of life will pull you off. So he said, remember. And I came here the other time. I said, remember means remember. Means member yourself again. Whenever time you hear remember, the word is again. Say member yourself again. In other words, something must have remembered you. There are things that can remember you, and the pain can remember you, and trouble can remember you. Like we're talking about suffering, persecution, sir. If you don't pay attention, can remember you. So he said, remember. He said, do this often in remembering, to remember, to belong. For you is that in this encounter this week, you have an encounter that will remember you. I don't want to be a believer that I don't have a. He said, and ye shall receive power. Yes, power. We are here because they said, side of God. The biggest problem of Jacob was that after a man with a blessing without the presence will lose the blessing. A man with the blessing without the presence, you lose the blessing. The Bible says, and Jacob is all what you have. What you have came from presence. You received it at once and left. I stayed and received. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow